Ah, Jake. Yeah, you put a thumb up there. My screen disappeared there. That's a good start, isn't it? Welcome to a Podful of Saints Series 3. See if we can make it into a second minute of this issue as well. Right, as you heard there, a Podful of Saints, three of us. I'm Dave Tavener. Over there somewhere with a little white thing in his ear is Lee Wood.
Hello, Tavs. How are you, my friend? Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. I should avoid... Oh, no, I did do it in the end. You're looking well, Lee.
I'll do what I can, mate. Thank you.
And in the centre of St Albans, wearing the same shirt as usual, Jake Ellacott.
Hello, Dave. Hello, everyone. I hope you've all enjoyed your breaks. And I can't believe we're back for season 3. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, a new season is upon us. And it's just called a Podful of Saints now because I believe you're doing very little for the club this season, aren't you, Jake?
Yeah, I've stepped away from most of the media stuff this season. Thought it was time to have a break. And to be honest with you, it's been a much more...
Hey, that's not what you told me, mate. I tell you.
it's been a much more enjoyable time. It's just so much less stress, and I'm able to enjoy and support the club I love again. It is, I can become a fan again, which is the main thing.
That is the main thing, though, isn't it? Don't we all want to sort of just get back and enjoy supporting the team?
Which
Exactly.
club's that, Jake? Is that Harpenden? That's where I saw you last week.
You did see me at Harpenden, no, but it is the mighty Saints of Clarence Park.
Okay, so you're not doing anything for the media this season, so situation normal. Right. We're going to kick off with a look at the friendlies, I believe. Last season, Lee, we had 9 friendlies, and you felt, in quite a short space at the time, might have been, you felt Ian wanted that number of games to really get his squad sorted out. Well, he's got 1 extra game this season. So we should have a championship wrapped up by the end of September, don't you think?
Okay, we're going down that route, are we? I do feel that there was some benefit, though, for having a large amount of games in such a short space of time, especially when the turnover of players was so huge. Obviously, there isn't that turnover this time around, but I kind of think, but they really did gel quicker. And from that, we are traditionally sort of slowish starters anyway when it comes to the league, but we really did hit it off first time. And I do think that is a testament to all those friendlies.
Right, and no, unfortunately, you didn't get to any of the games. You got to a couple of the home ones, Jake. Any opinion on what you're seeing? Well, it's very difficult to judge, of course, on a friendly.
Yeah, it's been quite difficult to tell this summer. I felt like the performances have been a little bit up and down, and the results haven't been anything amazing. I think the Watford result against Watford was fairly impressive in the end. Played pretty well for a lot of that game after a tough 20 minutes, but I think we've looked okay. I think Ian just wants to gel the squad together. Of course, there's been a few additions in the last couple of days as well. I think the standout thing for me was how much we've been relying on the academy. Actually, and a lot of the youngsters have had to play this summer. It's a lot more than I expected. Obviously, we had a few injury issues, and I think in one respect it is good to see Ian relying on that resource, and also in other respect, it's quite worrying that we've had to sort of use so many of those players already. But Ian seems happy with it, and he seems very happy going into the new season.
Yeah, it makes sense to give the youngsters a run out, doesn't it? But it's probably also because the squad is maybe not that large. We lost, about 9 players at the end of last season. Pretty much all fringe players, apart from a couple. Muna Sandir and Solomon Umabuki. Speaking to you a little while ago, you feel we're going to miss them quite a bit?
I do. I think the midfielders are really impressive. The whole team was impressive last season, but I thought the midfielders a really underrated area, and both of them I think have taken good steps up in football, and I think they'll do really well. And another player that I think will be a miss for me actually is Luke Warner-Ely. His performances at left back and his delivery of the ball going forward was unbelievable. And obviously, it didn't work out in the end. He didn't make too many performances, or too many. Sorry, I mean, he put in a lot of performances, but he probably wasn't as consistently in the team as fans would have liked. But I think he'll be a huge miss at left back.
Do we know where he's gone? I assume back to Royston, but there's nothing there.
No, he's at Billericay Town.
Oh, is he?
Mm.
Well, he thought he'd looked better himself.
He'll come back to haunt us.
Bound to happen, isn't it? What about you, Lee? Looking at the squad from the players who went, a couple of significant ones there. Only a few coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to hear Barry Hilliard comment about the depth of the squad. And when I sort of look back at it myself, I thought we were very, very light. But that said, with the addition of the two players, not only have we got numbers now, but we've also got a little bit of quality in Goddard, who I rate relatively highly. He's got a good pedigree, but I still think we are a quality striker short, if I'm honest. But again, they don't grow on trees, especially in the situation we find ourselves in now. I don't know, Taz. I still think I'd like to see a few more players. I love the fact that we are tapping into the academy. I know that you and I, hark back to the days when we had homegrown talent, CBs, your Martins, Shields, etc., Poku, but I just don't know how Ian is going to expect them to perform going forward, and if he's going to utilise them at all going into the new campaign.
You want to go back to 1983-84, Lee? Before you started watching, John Mitchell was joint manager with John Butterfield. We'd just been relegated, and Mitch practically took control, got in a whole load of all local players from Sandridge, all sorts of clubs around here, and we got promoted at the end of the season. And then gradually had to strengthen it by bringing in players from further afield. The higher went up the ladder because we got promoted again 2 years later, and I was asking a lot of local players to cope at that high level then. So it's going to be interesting to see how these kids come on. You mentioned striker there. A couple of supporters asked me on Saturday about Mitchell Weiss. What do I think of him? He is very good, isn't he? There's times when he does something you think, what on earth's he doing? But he is a good foil for Sean Jeffers, who I think is great at bringing the rest of the team into play.
Absolutely. I think the relationship those two built up throughout last season was actually a lot better than I thought it was. I think Mitchell's taken a step up, but we were a bit concerned, but he's done brilliantly. And Sean Jeffers as well, you can see why Ian brought him in the end. He's obviously the goals tally is what stands out, but as you say, Dave, the amount of work he puts in the team, works from the front, absolutely brilliant. But I do agree, I think we are missing at least another man that you can rely on to put goals in the back of the net. I think Mitchell will do the job, and so will Sean. But behind them guys, is there really anyone? I mean, will Ian be looking to play Liam Sol possibly as a forward, a bit more further up the pitch? I don't know. Zane as well, of course. But you really want another man that can really score goals. And like Lee says, it is tough to find them. So I think goals might be an issue this season, but we'll see.
Any concerns the other end of the pitch? Last year in the friendlies, we conceded 5 goals in 9 games. This year is 12 in 10.
I think. Sorry, Lee. I was just going to say it's hard to say because he's kept so much of the defence really. Apart from Luke Warner-Ely, he's kept most of the back four and Michael Johnson as well, and they performed so well for a lot of last season. I can't really get too worried about them at the minute myself.
No, what about you?
I just say I think you've sort of answered your own question a bit earlier on, Tabs, when you can't really sort of take too much out of the pre-season games. When you've got probably one of the best keepers in the division in Johnson, you've got your stalwarts there in Clark and Bender. I don't think too much of that needed tweaking, if I'm honest. I think Ian maybe saw Warner-Ely as a little bit of a luxury. Maybe he sort of left too much space in behind when he sort of made those runs forward, and maybe he's sort of looking just to sort of shore up that defence down that side. But ultimately, Tavs, we've got apart from the 2 key midfielders, the rest of the unit is relatively untouched. And the fact we've actually managed to sort of keep hold of Jeffers is absolutely fantastic as well. I'm looking forward to it. Defensively, I don't know. I mean, until it sort of starts. But if you've got 2 commanding centre defenders and a good keeper, you're halfway there, aren't you?
David Noble, great ball player, playmaker, and you'd love to see him 10 years ago, but it's not. He's well into his 30s now. Do you see him lasting the whole season, or do you think he's going to be coming in and out of it?
I think we've already seen this pre-season, haven't we? He's coming in and out of it, not making too many, games really. But when he has come on, he has looked very good. I think it's going to be very much the same. Last season he struggled with a few knocks, etc. But he's a quality player to have in the squad anyway, and bring on when needed. He still put in some really good performances last season when he was on the field, and he's just a little bit of extra quality you've got in the dressing room as well. I know it's a cliche, but I saw an interview with one of the young lads in the Hearts had the other day with Neil Metcalf, and he was talking about being able to play alongside David Noble in training and how much he was learning. And when you're 17, you've got David Noble alongside you. I can imagine that is absolutely brilliant. And hopefully that quality will help those young lads come through. So for me this season, I think Noble, his most important part will be in that changing room, helping the lads.
Yeah, he's got a UEFA B grade badge. It's taken him a long time to get there, and he wants to push for his A grade. So hopefully he'll get that through sometime soon, and that's presumably where his career is going to take him. That 17-year-old, he'd be carrying him, wouldn't he? What about the main two players who are left, them, Sundir and Mabuki? Have gone up to a higher level. Do you see them making their mark?
What do you think, Lee?
I do, honestly do. You know, they were the engine room, weren't they? And you can see, given the fact that we watch quite a lot of football at the conference level as well, you know, you can see them not looking out of place, if I'm honest. They've got the energy, they've got the legs, they've got the temperament, if you like. I don't see why not. I mean, if you look at Ben Wyatt, you know, he obviously had class, but he's now added that sort of temperament to his game as well. And he's gone on to bigger and better things. Thing is, Kings Lynn are sort of splashing cash as though it's going out of fashion, and they're always going to obtain a few players who do like a pound note. But I do think it is a progression nonetheless. So
we mentioned the academy kids earlier on. We've entered our B team into the Hearts County League this season. So they're mostly 17 years old, most of those players. They're going into a men's league, although it looks like there's other development clubs in that league as well, looking at the fixtures. But that should be a good grounding for them, shouldn't it?
I think it'll be consistent football, won't it? And that's the main thing, really. Consistent league football, like you say, Dave, in a men's league, even though it has got those other development teams. I think they'll really gain a lot from it. I think we saw last season they did pretty well in the FA Cup, but that was really the only meaningful games they had. Apart from those FA Cup games, there was not much else for them to play in. So I think it'll be really good to see that. And I think it was really good to see that there's finally a progression through the club and through the ranks to where young players can actually get in to the first team if they really do have that quality. We've not had it, like Lee says, really since Poku and O'Donnell and that FA Cup run the young lads had back then. We've not really had that progression since. And I think it'll be really good for them to be playing that consistent football.
Yeah, it's all lower level clubs as such, if you like, but it's got to be good for them. And I got distracted, huh? Good Lord. But it's not the first time we've been in the county league. Of course, we started in it in 1908. Last time we were in it was the first year after the war. It's interesting we're calling it a B team because we've had a B team before as well. We had St Albans City first team, the reserves that played in the Ishmael League Reserve League. We had an A team that went in the Hearts County League and a B team that went in the Mid Hearts League. And I say that was just after the war. So really, our B team now is our reserve team, isn't it?
Would it be cheeky to ask which war?
Whichever one you like.
But I do think that it's very astute of the club because they are trying to engage more with the community, and whether that may be you could perhaps resonate with some of these younger kids or their friends come along as well. I'm going to say this with the greatest possible respect. Ian hasn't always been massive on bringing youth through in the past, and when he has got young loanees, he's barely used them. Or sparingly. So I think now that you're playing for St Albans City and you're playing for the B reserves, whatever, it's going to mean a bit more to these kids if they are local boys. And we've all seen the impact that can have on the first team. Just that header means a bit more. That tackle means a bit more to them. And hopefully, as you say, playing alongside the likes of David Noble, Anton Bender and Sean Jefferson, all of that is going to be absolutely fundamental to their progression going forward as a Saint.
Yeah, in fairness to Ian, jumping from youth football or whatever up to Conference South or whatever they call the blooming thing nowadays, that's one hell of a leap. So you can understand his reticence to bring them through, can't you? So this should be a better stepping stone.
Well, I was talking about sort of like young players he's got in on sort of loan, if you like. Yeah. He's been very, very reluctant to use loan players as a impact really. I mean, how many sort of times have we had players on loan for a few months? He's played them literally for the last game of their role and then sent them back again. But as I sort of say, they've obviously thought about this as a general route into the first team, and hopefully, Tavs, there will become a time again, mate, when we can say that we're looking at half a dozen homegrown talented players on our side.
That would be exceptional to get anywhere near that. So, target to go for, I suppose. Time's going to tell. Right, let's have a look at the league. It's a 40-game season again, and there's been complaints, well, before the 2 seasons which were terminated early, complaints about too many fixtures early on, clubs complaining of players getting burnt out and everything. This year, the total opposite. We've got 1 midweek home game before Christmas. Have they gone too far the other way?
I think it's absolutely crazy the way they've gone with it. I mean, like you say, previous season we've had loads of games in August and early September, and they have been difficult, but it's totally, I just don't get it at all, because the amount of postponements we're going to get this season, I think is still going to be relatively high with the weather, etc. But also COVID, pings, etc. If there's another wave, etc. There is going to be a lot of issues this season. I can't believe how few midweek games there is going to be. I mean, even from a financial point of view, the weather is still nice for August and generally September. You want to get fans in on a Tuesday night, etc. You want to be putting those away trips. They're a little bit easier when they're travelling when it's still a bit light. But to have them, it is, for me, the fixture changes this season, absolutely crazy. And I still can't get over how few games there are in August. It's such a change.
Hey, Jacob, who are we to question the powers that be, mate? Eh?
That's true. They definitely
we've tried before, and
right.
they've tried to ban us, but no. Bless them.
What, was the National League tried to ban you, Lee? That says a lot.
Oh, mate, listen. There's a big queue.
Of course, in other seasons, you've had the Hearts Charity Cup, the Hearts Senior Cup, possibly a League Cup thrown in. So you've had all those to fill it all. And but Hearts FA have been in hibernation now for 2 years, I think. So there's no games coming through them. So yeah, there's no chance of filling those midweeks unless you play some friendlies and whatnot. Limited attraction to them once the season starts. So, but as you said, Lee, once you get bad weather, you're not going to get fixture congestion through cup ties, because there's only the trophy and the FA Cup, and we can't afford the silver polish, so we don't bother with those. So most clubs, it's not going to affect, is it? It's just going to be weather postponements.
Yeah. And you can
look, next season, it's a 46-game season, and you could have the county cups back as well by then.
Yeah, I think next season's going to be a real shock, but this could go somewhere to explain why Ian's got a slightly smaller squad for the. I mean, I remember in previous seasons he would start with a larger squad than usual, and he'd use those players because there'd be a bit of rotation. But with so few games now, does he need the squad that is so big? Because he's got week gaps now to get these players fit and ready. So yeah, I think it has a real impact. But it'll be interesting to see. I just think the postponements are going to be such an issue later in the season.
Not just the weather, but because of the pandemic still as well.
I think pandemic, weather, everything. I think it's going to be another tough season, and I think it's going to be quite as easy as most fans would hope. So, I mean, it's not easy to forget, but last season didn't even finish, and now we're going into a season they expect to be totally fine. So, time will tell.
Well, last season, as we know, we'd only played 15 games when it got terminated. If you did a weighted table looking at clubs' home form, their away form, then worked it out properly, we would have been second on 85 points to Dorking Wanderers 88. 10 points clear of third place. Have I got that right? I don't look right. Oxford City, that don't look right. Anyway, we would have been well clear. Can we do that again? Looking at the side we've got now?
Oh, it's going to be tough.
Why not?
But, with, like Lee said earlier, apart from those two midfielders, we've kept most of the team. You've brought in John Goddard in the last couple of days, who looks like a decent acquisition. As Dave zooms up to the camera, I think Dave's trying to find someone outside, one of his friends, I imagine. But,
Tabs, have you moved to Battersea, mate, by any chance? Is it? I mean, all I can hear is just dogs barking. Stay.
Best looking
good, bitch. Stay there.
But no, I think Ian will go in very optimistic this season to see what he can keep going. Of course, we've also still got Chris Winton, who I think had a huge impact when he came in and contributed a lot to the defence last season. He's still around. He's not being picked up by anyone or moved on for another job. So I think we've got to go into optimistic. Why not?
Right. We're starting the season with a nice easy one. We're at home to Dartford, then we're away to Dorking Wanderers. I mean, there's 6 points in the bag straight away, isn't there? You meet Steve King in the NLP, and he seems quite confident with the squad he's got.
That doesn't sound like Steve King, surely. Confidence? No way. Yeah, I would be happy with 2 draws myself, to be honest, to start the season. But I think Dartford and Dorking are going to be probably up there with Havant as the favourites for the title of the season. I don't know where we are in the odds, but yeah, those 3 sides, you've got to really fancy them. They've spent the money this season, they've strengthened their squads further, and again, they've got good managers as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how we get on. It's going to be tough.
Formidable start, Lee.
It is, but I know another team that have got a good manager and a really decent squad and have invested. St Albans City. So Dartford have got to come to us, and they've not always come away from the park with any points. So they're not going to be thinking that they're just going to be sort of rocking up at Clarence Park, taking home the win. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think we do try and underplay ourselves too much. We have to give credit where it is due. We've got a very good, young, exciting side. We've got a good manager, and I'm looking forward to the game. And I don't think we have to fear Dorking. I'm a little bit more wary of, if I'm honest, but Dartford at home, it's going to be a good game. And I don't think we've got anything to worry about, really.
Yes, we mentioned Dorking, Dartford there. Within those first 7 league games, we've also got Havant and Waterlooville. So to me, I would have thought they're likely to be the 3 top sides this season. They've taken the top players from most clubs. Which would you like to make a prediction? Do you think who's going to make it out of those 3, or any you like, who might just take the title this season?
I mean, I'll go Dartford just because Steve King, but I think another, maybe not necessarily a dark horse now, but Oxford City, they've strengthened again over the summer. They lost Phil Roberts, but they've brought in our old friend Joe Ciafano, and he's been scoring goals throughout the summer for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have another good season on that surface they've got. But going back to Dartford, we played well against them last season. Of course, Sean Jeffers scored that absolute rocket at their place. Of course, no fans. And it'll be interesting to see what the factor of fans back in stadiums has this season. It'd be interesting to see on Saturday how many will we get down the park. Does that have an influence? How many Dartford fans will come along? I imagine they'll have quite a good following. So hopefully it'll be a really good atmosphere. But yeah, it's just that Steve King factor that just worries me on Saturday.
You mean that deflected shot that won the game at Dartford?
It wasn't deflected, Dave.
Yes, well, talking about fans coming, I think there's a possibility non-league could get a boom like football did after the Second World War. Yeah, I would pick the war this time, Jake. Or it could go the other way. People still wary and not coming down there. One of the things that concerns me, and we're one of the clubs, we're not the only one, we're only making tickets available online. Now, why on earth wouldn't you have cash sales on the gate or even with a card on the gate?
Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't a card availability on the gate, actually, myself. I thought that would have been in place, but I've seen the sort of, I've been sent a few things by fans this week saying, oh, it's advanced tickets only. I saw the club tweet about it the other day, or today, actually. That does surprise me. But as you say, a lot of clubs are doing it now, and I think it's just the way it's going now. But there is, clubs will lose out, I think, in my opinion, from it. Not just the Saints. I think all clubs doing it. And it is a shame. And I know that I've seen a few comments from a few Dartford fans who aren't particularly happy about that, that want to pay on the gate. So, yeah, I think generally I agree, Dave. I think crowds will go up this season for non-league. I think people will love going back. I think we've seen that in some of the friendlies. The Watford game seems to have about 600 there in the end.
Any from St Albans?
Most of them from St Albans, actually.
Yeah, right.
Weren't too many Watford fans. But, yeah, the lack of availability by on the gate for whatever price it is will hamper every club doing it this season, I think.
Lee, what do you think about that?
Given the fact that the club have spent so much time and volunteer hours trying to make it a more sort of sociable, encounter, you know, just get more and more fans into it. I think it's a mistake not having on the gate sales, because I mean, so much of our attendance does come from football on the day. It honestly does. How many people are going to be in the pubs or the shops of St Albans thinking, oh, you know what, sun's out, let's go and watch the Saints, and turn up and you can't get in. I know there are COVID restrictions, and I know it's sort of safeguarding and all of that, but you know, it's common sense now. You've spent so much effort and so much man hours getting the ground to a situation where you're making it more accessible for fans, making it more fun for fans with new bars and new initiatives and new schemes, and you can't get them in. I think it's a mistake. I think it needs to be looked at, if I'm honest, if you want to really engage with the local community. But as you say, it will just be interesting to see in terms of numbers and attendances as the season goes on, really.
I was just going to add that is one of the great selling points of Clarence Park. It's in the heart of the city. It is 5-10 minutes from High Street. It is 2 minutes from the station. It is, you know, the suburbs all around. It's absolutely perfect location. It's not like one of these edge of town grounds that is a real pain to walk to or get to on the day, oh, I want to go. It's Clarence Park. It is in the park, the centre of St Albans. And those turn-ups are huge. And I do wonder if they could maybe just have one turnstile that is for on the day tickets. You know, just one entrance for it. Make it much more simpler. Make it a bit more easy if you want to. You know, segregate them from the rest of the entrances that are doing pre-purchase only. But it's obviously the club they're doing at the minute, and we'll see how it goes on Saturday. But yeah, I think they will be losing out on revenue.
I feel sorry for the elderly supporters, old fuddy-duddies like me who struggle to turn these blooming things on. They've then got to work out how to buy a ticket online. A lot of the older ones, they're going to say, no, thank you. And it's sad because that is their entertainment, if you like, getting out, watching a bit of football. They've done it for 50, 60 years or more, and suddenly it's hassle for them.
Totally agree.
Hassle, of course.
Yeah, I think the club would counter with that they can do it online. I think they've advertised they can come down to the club Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think afternoons. But I'd say that's not necessarily convenient for these people. Or they might not decide on those days that they still want to come down.
Exactly.
Or whatever it is, we all have lives to live.
Well, don't forget as well that I've spoken to Ian Rogers about this. I mean, I know that I actually raised the issue as well, along with Ian, two years ago. I spoke to him in the summer, and he's having the same conversations with more experienced fans. For me, that just puts another obstacle in the way for fans not coming into the ground. You know, there must be a way around it. Conversations need to be had. I know that Ian is working tremendously hard behind the scenes to make the process and transition as smooth as possible. I know that the Saints really want to have a cashless ground now and make it, you know, streamlined and fast entrance, etc. But if they really do want to look at getting all areas of the community and the city within the ground, they're going to have to look at sort of maybe fine-tuning that somewhere along the line.
And of course, since the end of last season, Clarence Park has been improved beyond our wildest dreams. It now has a stand behind one of the goals. What do you make of it?
I don't think it's the worst idea. I think it'll actually be really quite useful match days. I think it'll actually improve the atmosphere quite a bit behind the goals. And we've always lacked a bit of cover, especially during those wet seasons, you know, December, January. I think it will be a help. I do agree with you, Dave. I know you've got opinions on it that doesn't look particularly wonderful, and they've made it pretty clear it's temporary. But how temporary is temporary? Do we know what is going to happen to it? Do we know the process of what they're going through? I know the Trust has asked fans for their opinions. They sent out an email a couple of weeks ago to the members. I think some have been going back on that. But I think overall it is a good idea, but I can see why some people don't think it looks particularly impressive. I'm hoping the one at the York Road end will get finished for Saturday. It's been in the half-built state for a little while, along with dugouts. I'm hoping they will appear before Saturday. But yeah, I think for me, overall, it's positive, but I can understand why people aren't happy with it.
Well, Clarence Park has always needed covering ever since it was built in 1894. It's always needed covering. these things, they're totally out of character with the park. They're ugly. It hasn't got a back piece at the top there, so if a wind catches that rain bad, you're still going to get wet in there. It's a start. It's not the answer. Temporary. Some people say it's very temporary. One gust of wind should sort it out. Let's hope not.
I
Lee,
think it's also,
yeah.
I think it's important to congratulate the club on listening, because it has been on the list for a number of years. I don't agree with the way it's done, because although the trust has sent out a consultation, are you telling me that if there was such a massive, you know, vote of no confidence against the whole thing, they would take it down? No, of course they hasn't. This is just a tick box exercise to say that they've consulted the fans in some guise. However, that said, when I did report back to Ian, I was totally in favour of it. I think any covered end when we've been to away grounds really does ramp up the noise and the atmosphere, and at times it does need it at Clarence Park, because you know it can be a quite lonely, soulless, quiet place when things aren't going our way. And when we do need to get behind the side, we do need that little bit of cover, and we do need that noise to sort of really do sort of galvanise us as well. So it's good in that aspect. You know, it's a temporary stand because they don't have to apply for planning permission, although that doesn't really mean they won't get any objections from our friends in York Road. But that said, it's a positive step in the right direction, Tabs. And as you said, mate, as long as they're prepared to sort of listen to the fans going forward on these decisions, then it's all good.
Well, listening to fans has been one of their problems in recent years. If you take last week, we had that friendly at home to Hendon, and 12 City supporters, which included ex-members of the media team, season ticket holders, a former secretary, all went over to Harpenden Town instead of just paying £8 to go down the park. Now, the club, rather than just say, oh, it's the usual suspects, it's not. It's people who are St Albans right through to the core. Do you think they should take note of it and think, hello, we've got to engage better with the fans?
I think they have, because as you say, I've only been down to Harpenden a few times last season, but it's not the same people. It's members of the trust. It's members of, you know, die-hard City fans. I don't see Harpenden as a threat to City in terms of the long-term running of the club. But, you know, when people are choosing to go to Harpenden over a Saints home match, then there's concerns that need to be addressed. I'm just hoping that the club are going to prepare to listen to sort of fans as the season progresses. Because as you say, Tavs, they've made some mistakes going forward, but I from what I see, they're looking to sort of rectify those now, so which is good.
God, if they rectify it, might start promoting the history soon, which can be found on the history.
Stop mugging them off then, mate, and they might just do that.
Sending them information. Yeah, right. We did a little prediction thing the last couple of seasons, haven't you? You've both been very good at it. You were remarkably consistent. Dartford on Saturday. Jake's gone for a draw. What's your score going to be, Jake? You probably say a 2-0 win now.
Oh, I go 3-2 Saints. I'll be a bit bold.
3-2 Saints. All right. Lee?
2-1 City.
That's a very positive start.
It's what we do, mate. This is the podcast of positivity. It's what we do.
Oh, we should also mention, of course, we got a new away kit yesterday, a blue one. What do you think of it, Lee?
Yeah, it's very nice, mate. It's blue. It's very nice.
It's blue, lovely. I did enjoy the press release mentioned it's the blue that's on the crest of the city, isn't it? I believe so. That was a nice little tribute to. Dave, what have you got there?
Well, that blue.
Yeah,
proper crest.
Yeah. Also, and of course, there's some more changes to the ground as well, Dave. We've got another pitch side bar sort of thing, haven't we? So, and some murals. They look good.
Oh, God.
To be fair, I think the murals are a good idea. I'm not entirely sure about the players they've picked, because what if they depart in a year's time? I'd like to see a bit of a reference to our history. I'd like to see a legend or two on there. It'd be nice to see those, because the club didn't start in 2019 or 20. It has been.
Could you imagine, Jake, the Dave Tavener bar? They'll be selling, you know, half a Guinness and Black or something. Is that outrageous?
Now, I've yet to see a good mural or ground. Maidenhead United's was the best one, which I think dates from about 1969. But any others?
You don't like the old Glen Tamplin one?
Funny, it's not a winner, was it? They changed it after he went. For some obvious reason.
You know, going away from the terracing quickly, I think these improvements will help the match day experience. And like Lee says, I think there's an obvious attempt to reach out to more fans, a bit more positivity in the ground. It's just I do hope they do start listening on some of the bigger decisions. And I know the trust has been emphasising that's needed. And I think speaking to Ian Rogers, there was an admittance that they got things wrong over the badge last year. There wasn't as much consultation as there should have been.
Wasn't any.
There wasn't any consultation.
Exactly. And there wasn't at all. So I think hopefully they have learned from that backlash. But I think, you know, just having fans back in Clarence Park, we saw that one match day we had last season in December against Tonbridge. It was a really good atmosphere. It was fans old and new. Lee, you were in amongst the terracing. It was really good, wasn't it? Of course, it helps when the Saints are playing well. But hopefully having fans back in the terracing in Clarence Park will create a bit more positivity around things, and hopefully fans will be listened to.
I said it back then and I will say it again now. It was absolutely fantastic to see new fans turn up. And it shouldn't be, you know, like the old boys drinking club. Far from that. However, you do need to integrate every single fan, no matter, you know, what they've done, where they've sort of come from, where they live, integrate them all. Otherwise, you can't really call yourself a community club.
Look at us. This is a bit far too sensible, isn't it?
It won't last. We didn't do bad. We didn't get through the first 10 seconds without it going wrong, so we had it in the end.
Oh dear. Dave, what's your prediction for Saturday as well?
I think it'd be quite sunny, wouldn't it? Be all right. Won't need to stand unless you're avoiding sunstroke.
On that bombshell.
Oh, dearie me.
Prediction. I'm not that stupid.
Well,
I always used to predict we would lose games, not to be negative, for the simple reason is if you draw it, then you're going to be happier than if you said you're going to win and then draw. You'd be disappointed then. So if you actually win when you predicted a loss, well, then it's utopia, isn't it?
That's flawed logic, Tabs, if ever I've heard it, mate. It's shocking. Anyway,
gentlemen, have we covered everything on Dave's list today?
Yeah, I think so.
So to confirm, we've predicted we're going up as champions, and that's all that matters, right?
One thing, Jake. Last Saturday at Cheshunt, in the second half, I stood with John and Tim, and not Lapwood and Petty. No, this is a John and Tim who know something about football. And Tim said how much he enjoyed the podcast last season. But he particularly enjoyed, he seemed to think when we have a little dig at you, which we obviously don't do we, Lee?
I know we can help it, but the thing is, it's such an easy target. I mean, look at the state of him. I mean, you know.
Honestly, it's just
we've got to give the audience what they want, haven't we?
It's never ending.
It's supply and demand, Tabs. See, we listen to our fans. We give them what they want.
Oh, dearie me.
And on that note,
on that note, if anyone fans want to email us abuse or email me abuse and email the rest of opinions or views, the email address is in the description.
We'll be in the Dave Tavener bar on Saturday. Come and buy us a drink. It'll be free.
Oh, dearie me.